Obviously,
Going live,
I don't know
starting to
about
talk
that.
about NFL, and God, you already know the people are going to be on that one. But before we really go down that rabbit hole, before we go too deep down on that, we got to talk about some college football news. Guys, I'm joined today by Jay, PG, Drew, and Chris, the normal crew. Y'all know what to do. Go down the line. We'll start with Jay, PG, then Drew, Chris. Tell the people where they can find all your content.
Of course, you can find me, Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. Just search me on YouTube. I'm there dropping that super hot fire, but I'm not a rapper. Uh, appreciate you, Ty, as
Sweet
usual, having
Tea
your
from
boy on.
McDonald's. PG, what are you cooking up over there?
Oh, I'm not cooking up too much. Just rooting on my Chiefs to go win the Super Bowl and telling Drew about how Patrick Mahomes is going to be the GOAT in the NFL. If he's not already the best quarterback in the league. But yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube, the PG Show. We got lots of interviews coming up. We actually got one with Rondell Bothroyd coming out this week. So
it's going to be a big one. And you had the Barnes one just come out. That's one, guys. If you haven't checked out, go check out his interview with Barnes. That guy's going to be pushing for 1,000 next season. And, those of you running backs, they've got some dudes there. Drew, where can the people find all your stuff? I know you're cooking up some content as well.
Yeah, we're the Under Official Review podcast. We broke down the games yesterday and the NFC AFC Championship game. We're starting to do some NFL content. Always good college football content over there. So go search us, the Under Official Review podcast. You can find us on social media as well. But once again, Ty, Patrick Mahomes is not the GOAT. So yeah, kick it over to Chris.
Hey guys, you guys can find excuse me at the Horns Down Pod on Twitter, Horns Down Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that. So yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah, guys. And one of the things I wanted to kick off today, Florida, I don't know if y'all have been peeping what they've been doing over the past week, but they have had a really, really good week. First in the transfer portal, getting in a former, well, he wasn't a 5-star per the composite, but he basically was. Came in at number 38 overall. Keontae Goodwin, 6'8" or something like that. Huge individual. Ended up going Kentucky. He transfers to Florida, which is a massive win because when we look at the Florida Gators, PG, you pointed this out in a live stream a few weeks ago. It's almost the inverse of what we see at so many other teams, where usually year one, the head coach comes in there and cleans house. Whereas this year for Billy Napier, it looks like it's year two. When you look at all of the exits to the transfer portal, and a lot of those exits are along the offensive line. So Billy Napier and them did a fantastic job addressing that. They then get an outside linebacker, inside linebacker hybrid. Kid stands 6'4". He is going to be a beast. And on top of that, they hire former Auburn offensive coordinator Eric Kiesau as an analyst. Now, this is intriguing, guys. Kiesau started his coaching career. Utah State has a lot of experience in the Pac-12 at institutions like Colorado, Washington, Cal. Then went from there to Kansas, Fresno State. He has experience with Billy Napier in 2015, where both were on the Alabama staff. Kiesau was in an analyst role. And then he went from there, Boise State, to the Auburn passing game coordinator, where he followed Brian Harsin from Boise State over to Auburn. Now, Kiesau is hired as an analyst, so he's not going to be an on-the-field coach. The reason why I love this so much is because Florida has got to figure out a way to get a spark to that passing game, and especially with Anthony Richardson taking a move to the next level. Now, they get some good quarterbacks in the portal, Mertz, right? But at the end of the day, you still want to supercharge that passing attack. The Florida rushing attack was there this year. The passing attack wasn't. Now, if you're wary of this move, the argument that you'll give me is, hey, Ty, the passing attack at Auburn was just abysmal. The passing game for Auburn was terrible, where he was just the offensive coordinator. It was the rushing attack. So why should we be excited if he's really coming in here to revamp our passing sets? My answer to that would be, look at the just turmoil at Auburn over the past season. Mm-hmm. Almost the same thing I talk about with Arizona State. It's tough for me to really place blame on any one person for not playing up or coaching up to their full capability when there was so much chaos everywhere. So I think Florida's done a great job. I do want to go ahead and pass it off. Jay, I'll start with you, and then we go down the line. What are your thoughts with Billy Napier? He's got to have a better year, too, especially with some of the other Florida schools like a Florida State really having an impressive year last season.
Yeah, if I'm Napier, I'm a little terrified of what Florida State's doing. I mean, they once again got one of the top defensive linemen in the portal. It's like 2 years in a row. They're getting top 5 transfer classes with players from smaller G5 schools and whatnot. And so he's building a monster there over at Florida State Norvell. He's redeeming himself, I guess you could say. And honestly, it's not out of the realm of possibility for him to win 10 games again, if not get to 11 and potentially win the ACC. So if Napier wants to survive in state, he's got some work to do. Of course, the other problem is got to outspin Miami, who seems to just spend nonstop. And just because they don't win doesn't mean they ain't gonna spend. And spending is the name of the game that they like to win at. So Napier should have a better year, though. I mean, he has been recruiting well. He's been bringing in some solid players. I mean, the Rashada situation is definitely unfortunate, but at the same time, it's kind of what happens when you get into that NIL game. You gotta cross your T's and dot your I's. You've got to make sure that everything's locked down properly. And unfortunately, it didn't. But I think that Napier's got some better days ahead of them. It's just they've been recruiting well. Period. Like you said, they're surging. They've been recruiting well in 23 class as well as coming into 24. I think Lagway is going to be a difference maker for him going through this whole cycle.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to your point about recruiting well, they're top 15 in the class of 2023, which if you look at those top 10 recruiting classes in 2023, wild. Those top 10 classes are so stacked. They're just outside. Class of 2024, it just started. They're ranked 8th. Now, PG, I saw you have a tweet the other day that I agreed with. I would have added a few more teams onto it, but as far as your base teams, I thought you hit the nail on the head. As to some programs college football fans need to be on the lookout for. You had Colorado, you had Nebraska, you had Florida, you had Oklahoma, and Michigan, I believe, were the 5 that you had placed. Like I said, I would only add. I don't think I could take any one of them. But talk to me about Florida. You included them on that list. They're getting some big wins. What's moving the needle for you?
Yeah, so I agree with you. Probably could have added a couple other teams now that I've put a little bit more thought into it. But Florida, I think they're one of those programs that I think is a little bit special because they have such a rich tradition in terms of what they have on the football field. They have a really special quarterback coming in 2024 in DJ Lagway. And that's why I don't think you see the Florida staff and Florida fans necessarily freaking out about Jaden Rashada as much.
Good
because
point.
They still have a couple guys in that quarterback room in Jack Miller and then Jalen Kitna as well. And mind you, both of them played. Now, they didn't get a ton of snaps. I think Jack Miller got about 22 snaps and Kitna got 14, and they put up about similar numbers. Actually, Kitna was like a yard better. So there's going to be interesting quarterback battle for 2023. And in 2024, they really could just go get a senior quarterback out of the portal that's tenured to give Lagway that year of growth at the program. And then at that point, you've got your quarterback of the future ready to lead the way. And then hopefully in 2025 and 2026, you can get a quarterback every single year to kind of help rebuild that quarterback room. I really like, though, what the Florida Gators have taken out of the transfer portal on the offensive line, because we talked about how they've had just this kind of exodus throughout the program. And I think it was really Billy Napier trying to come in and see what he had in terms of talent wise and who was really going to be bought into what he wanted to do at the program. And now he's stripping it down to the studs, which is what BV's been doing at Oklahoma. And he got Keontae Goodwin from Kentucky, the 6'8", 340-pound offensive tackle, which that one I think was probably one of the best pickups in the entire transfer portal. I think somebody that's going to make an immediate impact for this Florida team. But looking outside of the offensive line, which I think they took 3 or 4 guys, and then they took probably another 2 or 3 in the class. They've got linebacker galore. They took defensive linemen, and I think they upgraded at every position that they lost players out of. And so, yeah, the quarterback position, I think, is a little bit of like, what are they going to do? But I don't think they're in bad shape. I don't think there's any cause for concern because, like you said, you have Graham Mertz coming in, and then you also have Kenta or Keaton and then Miller and Johnson Jr. as well in that room. So I think Florida's going to be fine. I think they're going to be in the uptrend. I think by the year 2024, 2025 seasons, you'll potentially see Florida trying to vie for a top spot in the SEC again, maybe even trying to compete for a college football playoff spot.
And just to, kind of set the framework, Jack Miller was just outside top 300 coming out of high school. So this is a talented quarterback, right? This is a talented
it's quarterback that everybody wanted.
Yeah, no doubt. Drew, same question. Some of the moves Florida's made, but I'm also going to pass you this one right here. Neo says, I was thinking about what Ty said the cheetah position is, and I want to ask, is that sort of what Ronell Lewis did while he was there? So I'll have you start there and kind of go from there. I figured I'd give you this one as the coach of the group. Oh, you got yourself muted there, buddy.
Let me unmute here. I think Ronell Lewis is more like a hybrid, but I think more of a defensive end type of outside linebacker. He didn't drop a whole lot in coverage, stuff like that. He played with his hand down a lot of the times. But yeah, he was a big physical guy. I don't think he's quite as athletic as some of the typical cheetahs that you think of, but he's a bruiser. He can go hit. I remember him played a little 8-man football in the state of Oklahoma as a youngster. And Ronell Lewis, that's a name that man, he could bring the wood. So. He was similar to that, but I think it was evolving more into what we see now as the quote cheetah than what it was then. But to tag on the point about Florida, I think they are they're just steady right now. I think they've done what they've needed to do in the recruiting trail and the transfer portal and stuff like that. But if you go back and look at their schedule from last year, they had some really good wins and they had some close losses against some very good teams. Tennessee, when they were early in the season, when they were at full strength, they had a win against Utah. A couple of them played Florida State really well at the end of the year. So they're putting pieces together. I think Billy Napier in his first year was just trying to set the groundwork, just like was just trying to set the groundwork, just like PG said with BV, just laying the foundation. And I think they put their good foot forward and. They're going to continue to build on this. Like he said, some great 24 guys with DJ Lagway and stuff like that. He is a really interesting athlete. I say athlete because he's also going to play baseball at Florida as well. Just a really incredible athlete. Can throw about 95 from the mound. So
that's him, right? Yeah. The kid who's so good at pitching. That's him, isn't it?
And he plays outfield. Just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, but yeah, future is bright in Gainesville. And then, like PG said, with the pedigree that they've had and success they've had over the last 20 years, facilities, stuff like that, and that alumni base, Zach coming in hot.
That's
Hey, and Drew, you talked about their schedule last year, and I feel like they have a pretty favorable schedule this year. Only concerns is they have to go to Utah, but you've got Georgia at home, Arkansas at home, Tennessee at home. You've got Vanderbilt, Kentucky on your schedule. I mean, when you look at Florida's schedule, I really
definitely could springboard them into
a way too early look. I just see maybe 3 or 4 losses. Like they could definitely have a good season.
And a couple other teams like PG, you had a list of teams. Those are great teams. A couple I would throw on there. Obviously, I had Florida State in my way too early top 5. And then the moves that Wisconsin has made. Look out for the Badgers as well next year.
Love that one. Chris, Billy Napier has got to have a better year.
Ty, please, Ty, hold on. Drew, as critical as you've been about OU and BV and all the rest of this, for you to give Napier a pass is straight bullcrap.
I'm not giving him a pass.
First off, just to tell both of you and PG, Billy Napier, what he's selling down there in Florida, I'm not buying. That stuff stinks. Billy Napier came down there and he's did one thing that I said, you know what, he wouldn't do. He's came down there and tried to put too much of his imprint on his team. This is not Louisiana. You're not having to do this. They gave you the keys to a Ferrari. Let the Ferrari go. You don't have to go out there and try to put your imprint and try to come in here. One of the first signs that I said, you know what, this is not going to go well, is when he came in there and he's telling all these recruits, hey, we got to reevaluate you. We got to do this. We got to do that. I'm like, man, you already got the horses there. Like, what are we doing? The the lack of progression that you saw with Anthony Richardson this year from the Utah game to the end of the season was just about as questionable as you could possibly get, because we know what Billy Napier has done with less. He's done more with less. To see him go down there to Florida and do exactly what Dan Mullen did, I don't know. It's hard for me to see. And I know we have our own problems at OU, but look, Napier and Cristobal, both of them, it can't go unanswered. They need to call BV. They need to call Venables and tell him, hey, thanks for having the season that you did, because we were able to go under the radar. Because this was by far the worst coaching job that worst coaching job that Cristobal and Billy Napier have had. And I like both of them as coaches. And here's my last thought on this, and I'll let Drew go and PG and everybody. But it's this right here. Billy Napier going to Florida, Florida is in the same position as LSU year in and year out. If they have a good coach, it's not about the players. They're going to be able to recruit right there in the backyard. If they have a good coach that could come there and add real structure and actually let the Ferrari be the Ferrari, not a workhorse, but a Ferrari, it's going to pay dividends. But whenever you come there and you're trying to overhaul this, you're trying to add a Hemi and trying to make a Ferrari do things that a Jeep or a damn Silverado should do, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I can't put any faith in them. I would say probably get to the 2024 class, because I'm gonna say this right here. Jack Miller was not good at Ohio State. If he would have stayed, then obviously CJ Stroud beat him out. They came in the same class. Kyle McCord was going to do the same thing if he was there this year. So I just really don't know. I have no faith in what they're doing.
Well, and here's one thing I'll say, and I want to do this comment right here. Zach says Jack Miller, yikes. And to your point, in fairness, though, we're comparing Jack Miller to a quarterback room that had 5 stars, 3 5-stars in it. I mean, that quarterback room for Ohio State might be the most loaded quarterback room in the nation whenever CJ Stroud was there, because you had Stroud, McCord, Devin Brown, who was just not far off. You had a lot of talent. Now, will he be a great quarterback that's going to be a first or second round pick? No, that's not my contention here. But my contention here is he can at least give them something to pass. Now, I think Mertz is going to win that job.
Hell, and that's not any better. I mean,
nobody's got experience.
Drew just said it. Besides experience, Drew just said it. Wisconsin got better by subtraction, to be quite frank with you. I mean, if we were talking about Wisconsin, I would say, hey, UMPG, genius. That's great. But Florida, I just can't really.
Well, the question it wasn't Billy Napier. It was, are they doing the right things?
And that's the thing
based on their recruiting classes and stuff, it's trending.
I don't think that they're doing
the question wasn't, do I believe in Billy Napier? Because I can answer that. But the question was, is Florida trending? And they are right now. You just got to wait to see. With Jay. You got to wait and see what happens. I mean, are you going to crucify Brent Venables right now because he had the same record as Billy Napier the first round of the season? First season. So I mean,
ours was highlighted more. I think at the end of the day, like I said, Cristobal and Napier went under the radar for the problems, and they had worse problems. You saw what we did against what you're calling a top 5 team next year in Florida State, and you saw what the product was for Florida out there. And
38-45. They could have beat Florida State. They had their chances.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, a loss is a loss, but I'm just saying that
I'm not saying Florida's going to go out there and win 10. I'm not putting a prediction.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's see if Billy Napier can do it, because he's got an uphill battle for sure, because there hadn't been an engine in that Ferrari in a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
My question is what state did he get the program in? Because Chris, and I know it's easy to be like, oh, well, it's Florida. He got the keys to a Ferrari. But was that a Ferrari when he came to it? I mean, we had Dan Mullen straight up say on national TV, I don't recruit right now. I wait until the season's over to recruit. An SEC head coach said that. So
But
that's
the
the
thing is, you could
mentality that's in that
argue-
room.
But you could argue that Florida and Oklahoma were very similar programs in the way that they were pretty much given to these head coaches and where those programs were. Because they were not, both Oklahoma and Florida were not going in the right direction at all.
Florida had
Well, I would say
five-star
that-
talent, though.
I do grant you that. The talent
Oklahoma-
argument. That's
Oklahoma
not
was
that's not
a better
contention for me.
situation than Florida.
That's-
I
Was
will
it
say
though?
that. Yeah.
Because y'all just lost your starting quarterback. You just
Yeah,
lost
but we
to
still had talent on the
DC.
roster, though.
Well, so did Florida.
I think it's comparable.
No, you can't shake your head and say we didn't. We did. It's proven.
Here's one of the problems with
Like,
Florida.
you can shake
and
your head
we-
all you want. I mean, we did have
I'll,
talent.
I'll get off my Napier stoop, but I'll say this right here. On my Napier soapbox, I'll say this right here. Florida does not have the perimeter talent. They don't have a wide receiver core that strikes fear in you. And that's been a problem this entire time for the last couple of years. They don't really have that guy. They have a few guys. I mean, obviously they had
Kyle Pitts and
Kyle
then
Pitts.
Kadarius Toney.
Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney.
God bless, they were.
I mean,
a
those
nightmare.
guys were weapons, but outside of that,
I'm
really
so
haven't
glad
had a
they're
star
not in
wide
Florida
receiver.
anymore.
Yeah,
I'm so glad they're not at Florida anymore.
yeah.
They have some guys, but they haven't had that next level dude. To your
Exactly.
point, they just haven't. They
Yeah.
just haven't.
And I think that's one of the problems. Even going look at OU, we could definitely tell you because look, our 3-star, our 5-star trio that we got, that none of them ever panned out here at OU. And you could blame the coaching, you can blame injuries. There's a lot of things, but I mean, we kind of know that. But when you don't have those guys that can go out there and get that type of separation that you need on that level, I just can't put stock in them, man. I'm sorry, Drew. I shouldn't have got on you like that, but I'm just saying, man. I can't put any stock or value in what Napier is doing.
You got to put a little bit into their recruiting at least, but that's also you got to see the product on the field at the same time.
And Ty, this is the last point, but Ty definitely knows, as we talked about this a lot. I was really excited about the move because I thought Billy Napier, he made sense for Florida. He was a no nonsense type of guy that would come there and actually add the structure that you needed. But I'm like, I haven't seen it yet.
And that's, I think, my only question here. This is why usually, Chris, you've heard me say this more than anybody else here on the panel. I'm adamant. Give a coach 3 years. They have to have.
Yeah.
But to me, this is a big year for Billy. And it's bigger in year 2 than most because of the way they've chose to almost have the exodus in year 2.
Yeah.
Had he come in there year 1 and had this massive exodus, I'd have been like, okay, you went 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. What are you going to do? But you didn't have a very good year when you're having a quarterback that's being mocked as a first rounder, whether we agree with that or not, that's irrelevant. He's one of the most gifted football players in the SEC. Rounder. You get what I mean? Like, so you didn't have, and I think Kirby's visor put it great in a comment right up here talking about they don't have the trenches that they used to. And I think that is a great point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Pouncey twins are not walking back through that door at any time.
No, they don't have that. And they have got to get back to that. They have got to get back to that. Yeah. You look around college football, you look at the teams that have any hope of improving, that's where they're at, is those trenches. But talking about some hope of improving, boy, as a Bama fan, do I have some jovial news today about the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator search, because we got some news. We got some news on both sides. On the offensive coordinator, there's talk about Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator for Washington right now, and that would be intriguing. Guys, I pulled some numbers right here. Whenever we look at Penix, he never really had a full season, but really he boomed under the tutelage of Grubbs. Now, I'm not going to put that all on Grubbs because he had some injured years before that. But here's an interesting trend. Penix went for 4,354 yards, 66 completion percentage, 8.4 yards per attempt, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And I was thinking that's a great year. But what did he do at Fresno State? Because in 2021, Grubbs was with Fresno State. Well, when Fresno State was there in 2021, his quarterback, Jake Haener, threw for 4,000 yards, over 4,000 yards. So it's not like having a 4,000-yard quarterback's a one-off for this guy. Why I like this so much is because if I go through Ryan Grubb's history, started off college football at South Dakota State as a running back coach in 2005, went from running back coach to wide receiver coach, then coached the offensive line for Sioux Falls, was there for a while. And Drew, you'll appreciate this one. He comes from the Kendall Doble tree, or not Doble, the Kendall DeBoer tree. He spent a lot of time with DeBoer up at Sioux Falls and followed DeBoer when DeBoer went from there to Eastern Michigan, from Eastern Michigan to Fresno State, and from Fresno State to Washington as the head coach. Be excited about, who are you selling? Zach, I don't know if you're like commenting about the right thing. I don't know what you're talking about here. Excited about a Pac-12 coach.
He's talking about your offensive coordinator.
Yeah, from
Oh yeah, why can't I?
Talking about Ryan Grubb.
I'm illiterate here.
The coach is a coach.
Yeah, why can't I?
Zach is finally trolling and he's all about it. So
I know.
On Hennessy earlier. So
Zach,
my co-host,
I don't have Bill O'Brien anymore, man. It's all good. But I do apologize. I don't know why I read that as something. I read Big 12 for some reason, and I was like, what do you mean Big 12? I didn't say anything about. But I absolutely think this is an upgrade from Bob. When I was watching the Washington offense as opposed to the Alabama offense, and one thing I get all the time is it wasn't Bob. Bama's offense was still, a top offense in college, so Bob wasn't the problem. Well, I had Drew on here with me the other day, and we were breaking down some film, and he got what I've been saying. There are so many times where you look across the board, it'll be a 3rd and 8, and across the board, 1 through 4, all of our wide receivers run a 6-yard curl.
Yep.
All of them. And the route layering is atrocious.
You're just trying to pick up that first down, man. All bases are covered. Come on.
But we're running before the first down marker. we're coming back before. Like, I've heard talks. All right, you're going to give me a heart attack now, Zach. Talking of Gaddis coming back. You're going to give me a heart attack now, my man.
Maybe as an analyst, he's back in the rehab
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
But no, I think that this is a fun hire. When I look at the quarterbacks on roster, a Ty Simpson, I look at his skill set. I look at a Jalen Milroe, I look at his skill set. I think Grubbs would be fun. I think that would be a lot of fun. Now, defensive coordinator, we've heard some words that the Jeremy Pruitt situation is heating up. Now, it all depends on what the NCAA is going to do. I don't think the NCAA is going to do anything because I have zero faith in the NCAA ever. But if that's the case, whenever he was the defensive coordinator for Alabama, those Bama defenses, I think, went back-to-back number 1 in the nation. Very talented when he inherited it, no doubt about it, but he knows how to work with Saban. They get along. It's a match made well. I would be over the moon. Zoom asks, is Lebby off the table for Bama? I hope so. As far as I know, Lebby's been off the table for a little bit. And that's why I've continued to say, like, yes, there was some contact between Bama and Lebby, but I don't know how much it went after that. Hall of Fame says Pruitt's getting that job. I hope so. Austin says 2016 Bama defense was insane. Yeah, that was a great one. Jay, what are you thinking, man? Ryan Grubb is a potential offensive coordinator and Pruitt for a potential defensive coordinator.
So, I've got history with Pruitt, being also a Tennessee fan and dealing with him at my school. And coming to find out, we have McDonald's / Chick-fil-A bags and giving out money.
Chick-fil-A, give him credit.
I'm not giving him credit. He don't deserve credit for it because I understood what he was doing. It wasn't in a quote-unquote malicious way. He was trying to really help some people out, and I get that. But at the same time, bro, you know the rules. That's just stupid. It's stupid. It's just when you do stupid stuff like that, I just gotta look at you like, man, I don't care how good of a deed it was. You're stupid.
I hate that.
so outside of that, I mean, I think that Pruitt would do well under Saban because I think he'd humble himself back to the days of being under Saban anyway and actually do a pretty solid job. Now, I just don't know how he is coaching wise since he's been out the game a few years now. I don't know. I don't know or whatnot. But outside of that, I like the Grubb hire. I like the high idea of getting him. I went and looked at some stats because, you looked up numbers. I looked up numbers. Number 2 offense yards per game in the country. Number 2 passing yards in the country. And running, they were meh on the run game. They were probably in the they were number, to be exact, 69, which is a great number. In that, but yards per play, top 10. So what you're getting is a coach that's pretty innovative, and like you said, Ty, fun. If anything, the offense will be fun, and he'll be the opposite of Lane Kiffin fun because he won't do stupid stuff to piss off Nick Saban. And I think that's probably the one thing we have to take in consideration for this hire. And what would make it good is that you're going to get a Lane Kiffin type offense without Lane Kiffin type stupidity.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
Watch out for that Raising Cane's kitchen staff. I heard they got a good run game. So
no, like I commented right after, I'll take Bama to cover the spread.
That's all that matters.
That Atlanta homeless shelter, watch out. Good, never know.
That one could get wild.
That
one will get wild.
Is that a neutral site game, or where's that one being played?
Probably neutral
Zach,
site.
if you want to be good, the one that they've got scheduled that shocked the hell out of me is they've got actually Atlanta Waffle House staff. Bama's going to lose that game. Yeah. I got Waffle House on the spread.
Yeah.
That's the OG Waffle House.
Yeah, look, I'm a Bama fan. But wait, what Waffle House are we talking about? Where at? Because the Waffle House in Gainesville, they could take them.
No, the OG.
No, Atlanta. I'm talking about Atlanta. I'm talking about Atlanta based.
No.
That's where they're founded.
Yeah, that's probably not going to go.
But no. Overall, though, I do think that having a fun offensive coordinator like Grubb would really, I think that'll make Jalen Milroe really pop this year.
Yeah.
He won't be forced to be stuck in a pro style offense that doesn't work when you don't have all pro type players around it. I mean, that was a problem with the Bryce Young piece to me, is that offense, to give Bill O'Brien credit, it would work if Bryce Young wasn't dealing with wide receivers that weren't really pro style wide receivers yet, especially this year. The wide receivers were good. They just weren't pro style.
Girls.
That too. Right. But that's what I'm saying. It's a pro style offense when you have players that are just burners. You just throw that bad boy deep. Just burn everybody. You've got that. And he played like it was in the NFL. In NFL, you do 6-yard curls. You don't do that in college football. And so I think Milroe can be unlocked, and I think that he becomes the monster.
Jay, you'll like that one. Zach is on one tonight.
Yeah, man. Zach says the Waffle House staff has some sick transfers that came in from the Chattanooga IHOP.
I mean, I'm totally with that. But those Chattanooga IHOP transfers ain't playing over the Waffle House staff, though.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
It's hard to make that transition from pancakes to waffles, so we'll see how they do it. Not easy.
Especially Atlanta Waffle Houses. Yeah. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Grubb. I think that he's
somebody said about the Big 12 schedule. Mid-February-ish is what I'm hearing. So
man, that's stupid as hell.
It's whenever your Mark decides to stop screwing over OU and Texas on the schedule. So.
Gosh, there are a bunch of marks.
I don't know. Did you guys ever see that? I don't know if it was real, but did you guys see that leaked Texas schedule that was floating around where they had Texas on the road for 6 Big 12 games?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm like, if that's real, Texas and OU better be fighting like hell against your Mark on that one.
Hey, I was going to jump in here and say, okay, I think that Ryan Grubb, because I was like, Ryan Grubb, and then you said Washington. I was like, oh, snap. If y'all were able to get him, I think he comes in there and he makes you guys elite all over again. Simply because the things that he's been able to do with the quarterback up there right now, I don't know why.
Penix Jr., Michael Penix Jr.
And to couple that with with Milroe, who's actually going to be mobile, who you would love to be mobile, but to do some of the things that play to his strength, I think he's a big play waiting to happen. I think with his legs, and I think he has a really good arm as well. I mean, Ty, we talked about that stuff in passing on and off camera, just as far as like, hey, Jaden Milroe can throw, he can do it all. He just has to put it together.
And he had to go through a game plan. And look, I'm not trying to pile on to Bill O'Brien right here, but I'll just
Yes, you are.
Well,
Kyle
no,
and
but
Bill
like,
O'Brien.
yeah, I am. But like,
Yes, you are.
Kidding.
to be as objective
be
as
honest.
possible, within a week, he had to take a game plan that was built for a pro-style quarterback for Bryce, where it's like, hey,
True.
Bryce, here's like 3 or 4 plays.
Yeah.
Look at what the defense is running, call all the audibles, pick the play, audible out of that when they shift and go. Then he had to give that to Jalen Milroe, whom he was trying to run Bryce's offense. And there are very few quarterbacks in the nation. Like, you have to be, it's not even about ability. It's about experience. What they ask Bryce to do is what very experience, and it's because he's like, you just hear them talk about him and they say his football IQ is through the roof. Just like he gets the game. And so asking a quarterback to come in there that hasn't started multiple games and run that offense, it's a recipe for disaster for anybody in the nation. Anybody. It'd be tough. And he's got the arm. I've talked to some people that's trained him. PG, I'll throw it to you right after this. I know some of the people, Austin, that worked with him whenever like he's in high school coming out. He's got the ability. It's about if it all comes together. But he's got the arm talent. Go ahead, PG.
Well, I was just going to say on Ryan Grubbs, does it seem like Nick Saban is trying to do what a lot of other programs do and try to find that up and coming offensive coordinator instead of going out there and getting somebody maybe a little bit more tenured?
Nah, Grubbs has been Grubbs hasn't been like major.
He hasn't been in a big
for
program.
a while, but like he's been in the game for a minute. I think he started in 2005 with South Dakota State. He's like 55.
But what I'm saying is he's an up and coming offensive coordinator in terms of the game, right? Like, I mean, he's going to be somebody that maybe if he doesn't go to Bama here in a couple of years, a lot of people are looking for at a head coaching job.
Possibly. So this is the same guy that Zach says now. I'm sure. Forgive me. It's all fun, man. This is the same guy A&M wanted, and Washington gave him a raise so that A&M wouldn't get him. A&M tried to pull him a year ago, Jay, or was it the beginning of this season?
It was December.
Yeah.
Like literally within the last month, A&M had targeted him, and then Washington gave him a raise to $2 million a year to keep him around.
With those weapons and that offense, I mean, it's a big play type of offense. I mean, you saw Penix. Penix was just, it's deep. There's a lot of deep routes, there's a lot of stuff. It's not complicated either. It's a spread attack that I think in my opinion, and Ty, tell me if I'm wrong. Everybody tell me if I'm wrong. I think Saban wants to get back to a good, decent spread game, a spread attack that has a solid running game that goes along with it. And I think he's really trying to get back to that instead of just going into this kind of pro style.
I think he wants to get into like some RPO.
Yeah, I think he wants to
give more options to the quarterback.
Yep.
Kind of like he did with Tua.
And if you look at our wide receivers, like that wide receiver room. So one of the other things I've noticed, I've rewatched Bama's season. I'm doing my second rewatch of it right now to complete it. But let me go to my live stream notes. So one of the things that my film study notes for Bama. So one of the things I have highlighted is that they don't attack the middle with Bill O'Brien. Like, if I broke it down into statistics of where they attacked, he very rarely would attack the middle. And because of that, teams pulled so much to the outside. And I think that gave us a lot of trouble. I looked at our wide receivers and I'm like, okay, if it's a bunch of young guys who are like 6'5", 5'11", 5'10" wide receivers who are slot wide receivers, let's hit them with RPOs, quick slants, quick outs, pivot routes, whip routes. Let's give them something to generate the separation instead of asking them to run a streak to generate the separation.
I think that's kind of what this. I mean, I think we all watched a fair share of Washington games if we could, or at least clips. Their offense is not a gimmicky offense. I know a lot of people were screaming, Scott Frost, and I was like, no, it's too gadgety for that to ever fit with Saban. I think that somebody like Ryan Grubb could bring a really nice spread attack with a great running game, especially with the running backs.
That's the one thing he didn't do as much. Like if you go back to that bowl game against Texas, their running back their leading rusher only had 14 attempts, but he went over 100 yards.
But
and it's interesting.
But I'll say this though, obviously we can sit here and say they don't have the athletes, but I don't think they have the what they need in the trenches to be able to run as successful to sustain that. And let's just be real. Texas, as much as I hate to say this, Texas defense was better than it has been. It was better than advertised, to be honest with you, this year for once in a while.
It was, and that's why I'm very excited to see what they do. Hall of Fame says Bama doesn't have good receivers. What I think that my point there, I probably worded it wrong. Hall of Fame, it's that they didn't have a Devontae Smith, a Jerry Jeudy, a Waddle, a Ruggs, any of those guys. You had talented guys. The Bama wide receiver room, and Chris can tell you, I have been probably one of the few people in the content sphere to continue yelling like, hey, I don't think the problem is the wide receivers at Alabama. I don't think that that's the issue because they're all very talented. I just didn't think the usage was correct. Now, granted, I know nothing, but it looked like we were asking them to do things that like Jameson did. And that's like, they're not Jameson. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have that 4-2 guy and we were asking them to be a 4-2 guy. It's like,
well, you supposedly had it on campus, but he never played it down.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're 100% right. We did have that on campus. Tyler Harrell. Interestingly enough, he transferred out.
Yeah.
But that's also because there's a wide receiver, guys. I'm going to go ahead and say Malik Benson. Remember the name. That cat's going to be cold.
Ty, I just want to go over a couple things with you. This schedule that you guys got it's whoa, okay. This is a little bit of a gauntlet here in some areas, but I just want to point out the two games that I think are really interesting on the schedule to look out for. Ole Miss coming to Tuscaloosa. That's going to be really interesting for all
fun
reasons. Yeah, Saban going against both of his former guys, so it's going to be
that's going to be a fun one.
A lot of drinking.
Yeah. Then I want to go down to November 25th at Jordan Hare Stadium.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about going. I don't want to think about any team playing in Jordan Hare until it like the last possible second.
Jordan Hare.
Jordan, whatever you
We're
want
to call it Jordan Hare.
It's gonna be like Chris always said, Auburn by 40.
Auburn by 40.
So, in all seriousness, what about that Texas game in Tuscaloosa?
That's going to be a fun one because that Texas team really took a step up. Quinn Ewers, where is he at in his development? How much of a stride has he made from year 1 to year 2 now that he has an understanding of the tangible lessons they're trying to impart? It's one thing, and I've said this before, I haven't said it in probably a year. It's one thing when you're a coach trying to teach a kid their first year, and you're like, oh, well, you got to do it this way. Well, they haven't seen it. They saw it in high school. Sure, this is a different game. You might as well be comparing basketball to football for high school football and college football. It's a different game.
Mm-hmm.
After that first year, well, now they've seen it. Now they can think back to when their coach is like, hey, whenever the safety does this, you have to adjust this way. And they're like, oh, that's right. I remember against OU. I remember against Texas Tech. I didn't make the adjustment. I remember, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a really fun game. Very fun.
Yeah.
Very excited for Texas.
Well, and it intrigues me because growing up, I don't remember really watching Alabama play a lot of big name schools at home and going to other. That's why when I saw Alabama going to Texas, I was like, is that right? Because I remember these games mainly being neutral sites.
Yeah, they didn't do a whole lot of going to, especially in non-conference because of their conference schedule, so you didn't see a lot of those big matchups, especially at home and homes. And yeah, you did see a lot of neutral sites every once in a while. But yeah, that's probably the reason is because they're gauntlet of the SEC. So
now Hall of Fame. I was high on the wide receiver room. You wouldn't have caught me dead comparing the Alabama wide receiver room this year to the Ohio State wide receiver room.
No, that Ohio State wide receiver
room
is incredible.
No.
I would ask you, are you okay?
Hey, now you're going to get Zach. Here comes, watch him.
Yeah, no, those two rooms weren't comparable.
Now here's what I have to say about this Texas Bama game. Okay, it's gonna be a pretty good game. I really believe. But here's the thing: three things I think go against Texas in this game. One, you're not playing at home. Your crowd is not going to be crazy. What are you going to do if you get down? What's going to happen then? Second off, run game. We really don't know what Jonathan Brooks is going to. Is he going to be that guy? Is he going to have to be Baxter? Is going to have to be them? And then third, and Jay, please tell me if I'm wrong on this, Jay. A guy not named Xavier Worthy is going to have to step up in that wide receiving core and be that dude on the other side, because I don't think that you're going to see Alabama go out there this year and run out there and say, yeah, we're going to leave. I forgot what that corner that transferred to Oregon's name is, but we're not going to leave him on an island with Worthy the whole time and watch him get burned 7 out of 8 times.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, it was just one of those things where Alabama came in there really cocky and was like, "Hey, our guys are better than yours." Which, look, we already know that.
They played press man against Xavier Worthy off the line.
Press man, and there was no scheme behind it. It was really just, "Hey, we're gonna man up across the board." And then as the game went on and it got tighter, you saw them start to show a little bit of their hand, because I really think that they believed that they were going to come in there, at least Pete Golding did, and just steamroll Texas, and that wasn't the case.
Not at all.
Well, they also had
I think with that
was not helping.
I mean,
them
I think,
at all.
Yeah, they were pretty undisciplined in that game. And me and Todd talked about that a bit. But no, yeah, you can't walk in there, and I think that's where the cockiness came in. They thought that, we're just going to walk in and beat them, without realizing that a lot of schools in the country get some really, really good players. They don't all go to just one school. So there's some players that are almost borderline transcendent, and they'll go out there and beat the crap out of you dang near by themselves. And that was kind of the rude awakening that those Bama players got at that game. Was like, oh snap, they actually got talent here. I thought that their record sucks every year. I didn't realize that those top 5 classes actually produce some players. Yeah, it does when they put it all together.
And I think what Texas showed last year was that they were better up front, and I think that was where their biggest difference was in some of their wins last year, including Alabama. They didn't win, but they were physical, and they punched back. And I think Alabama wasn't quite ready for that.
That Texas offensive line and what their defensive line is going to be this year, I'm a little scared of it. But the thing I think a lot of people are overlooking was Alabama had to go play Texas at, what was it, 12 o'clock? I mean, it was hot in Texas.
That's also one thing that screwed
Bama. Man,
I
mean, I don't know that it's Texas hot, but it's hot as can be in Bama too.
But
It's
Texas hot though.
Ty, get me on this, because you might know the answer to this. So that game was on Fox last year, I believe. Doesn't CBS get the rights to the Alabama game this year, since it's home for Bama, Alabama, which means that game's probably going to be a night game?
It'd probably be 2:30. It's going to be the 2:30 game, because that's what CBS is usually. The primetime game is at 2:30.
I just really think that look, Texas is going to go in there and play a good game. I think Sark is going to call a heck of a game, to be honest with you. But like I said, Quinn Ewers has to step up and elevate this team. And then also, look, we've seen it where it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not going to say that their wide receiving core isn't on paper really talented, but the verdict is still out. We still have to see exactly what's the ruling on Nayor. Is Nayor going to be the same wide receiver that he was? Is Jonte Cook going to be able to go out there and be that guy? And then A.D. Mitchell, we a lot of people are excited about A.D. Mitchell, but
Well, here's one thing. I want to Hall of Fame says I specifically heard McElroy saying it, talking about the wide receiver. You're going to have to send me that clip, Hall of Fame, because I was one of the few people in the content sphere saying I thought that the Bama wide receiver room would be better than people expected. I heard everybody in the college football sphere actually saying that was the one area they were worried about for Alabama. I never heard anybody compare that room. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I'm just saying that was the one area that national analysts were voicing concern about for Alabama. I never heard anybody compare it to Ohio State. And if they did, they were dead wrong. Now, here is one thing. Working man, you're right. Bama didn't look at that again. Bama didn't look that good against Texas. I'll admit it. But here's the inverse of that. Texas outplayed Bama. Bama did so many self-inflicted wounds, such as 17 points, and still won the game. So what happens if Bama showed up?
Well, they probably
What happens
would
if
have,
Bama doesn't get 17 penalties? What happens if Will Anderson doesn't jump off sides?
Hey, Ty, what happens if Bill O'Brien says, you know what? We don't have to run at the edge the entire game. We can run in the middle as well.
Well, look, and I'm not saying – my point here is just saying I don't know that Bama would have won that game by like 14 points. That's not my point. My point here is just that like there's going to be a lot of differences between this game and the next game. This is my underlying point here because Bama's going to clean those things up. They're not going to have as many self-inflicted wounds. Now, granted, they don't have Bryce Young. And working man, you're 100% right. That was a huge reason. And they did. You're very much you're very much right. They did. Hall of Fame, I would have laughed too if I heard someone compare that to Ohio State's room. That was wild. But I think they're going to really try and clean it up. And the refs helped y'all. A couple holding call in the fourth specifically.
I mean,
but no Lone Star, there were blown calls all over the place.
There's no doubt that if Bama cleans up a little bit, that they probably win that game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. But I think if you look at how undisciplined Bama played, look at how well Texas played in that game and then continue to build off that all season.
No, they're going to be a good team next year.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say Texas doesn't come in this season building off the momentum they had on this season, which was, I think, really started on that Alabama game and come in there and play at an Alabama level.
Here's the thing. PG, they come in there with these expectations all the time, and sometimes most of the time it's just from their fans. Every year is going to be this year, is going to be that year, and this year. So I don't know. I mean, they're gonna have to show it. I mean,
they're like the
I'm
Dallas
not a
Cowboys.
Texas fan.
I know that. I'm just saying, like,
I'm an Oklahoma fan saying that Texas is going in the right direction. They've built out a lot of momentum, and next year, if they continue to go that direction with Sark, which Sark has proven to us in 2 years at Texas, he can get that program going in the right direction. That Texas could be that team next year, like Alabama.
I mean, they're 13-12 over 2 seasons. PG.
Yeah, he hasn't proven it.
Things, yeah. A lot of
this is a big year for Sark.
Yeah, this is a big.
This is the proven year for Sark right here.
Yeah.
Well, I think Sark's on the hot seat this year if he doesn't win more than 8 games.
I agree.
He has to, and
because if he doesn't,
go ahead,
PG.
If he doesn't get to the Big 12 championship game, if he doesn't win 10 games, he doesn't necessarily have to win the Big 12 championship, but he at least has to get there. He at least has to go win 10 games because Texas fans want to see progression. But here's the thing. I think Sark can do it because if you look at all the little things that Sark is doing around the program, like focusing on specific areas of recruiting that other coaches haven't been putting an emphasis on, that's where I think Texas is ultimately getting better because they're getting better in the trenches. And you saw it last year on the field. Games that maybe they should have lost were, closer. I watched that Texas team last year and go, all right, they do what they did last year, next year with the given talent they got out of the portal and their recruiting classes, returning talent. Texas could be a really good team.
I was going to say, we'll see what happens with Jimmy just nailed it right there. 7-win Sark. We'll see what happens.
Well, this right here from Lone Star. I'm sorry, Ty.
No. This is a great comment right here.
I was going to say this is a great comment because that's what it boils down to right there. And that's why I say, and that's why I've said time and time again, for me to believe that Texas is going to go and do great things this year, it can't all be on Sark. Quinn Ewers is going to have to elevate this team whenever you see those second half Sark woes creep in, right? When they're not making the right adjustments and all the rest of that. And I think Quinn Ewers, as talented as everybody thinks he is and all the rest of that, can he be that quarterback that can lift and elevate this team to that next level?
Well, I'm with
PG.
Play above the coaching, basically.
I don't think for Sark, I don't think he'll lose his job if he wins 8-9 games. But for them to have the level of success that they want to talk about, they have to get to the Big 12 championship.
But here's the thing.
And no, go ahead, PG. I'm sorry.
No, here's the thing. Quinn Ewers is that dude. I think a lot of people forget that was Quinn Ewers' first year as a starter. It's not like Quinn Ewers played a season at Ohio State. He sat the whole year at Ohio State,
and when he got to Ohio State, it was August. So you're not jumping in a quarter. No self-respecting coach is putting a kid who should be a senior in the middle of a quarterback battle and saying, "You're my QB2 in case Stroud gets hurt." But by the way, you didn't learn any of our offense. You came here in August.
Yeah. So
he
that's
wasn't
my deal.
ever. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the Quinn Ewers slander has been a little too brutal, to say the least, just because if it was his second year as a starter, I would get it. But it was his first year. It was his first year.
It's hard to say that when you saw Caleb, bro.
Yeah, Caleb Williams is a generational talent. Quinn Ewers is not.
I put like this.
Spencer Rattler had a better first year than Quinn Ewers did.
And to kind of go with Chris's point, I think that's the problem that I've seen with Ewers myself, is that he can't play above the coach's coaching ability. There's very few of those that have come through college football, and because of that, you can't going over Bill O'Brien's coaching, and just because play call, sometimes you just can't beat it. And the one thing, like with Bryce, even when I mention him, is because he just won't run. He probably could have got around a lot of Bill O'Brien if he scrambled, but it's not his game. And so you have to be a truly transcendent player to really outplay your coaching. And that's just not something I don't think Quinn Ewers, I don't think he's that. He's not that guy. I think he'll be a solid college quarterback. Your Colt McCoys, your Shane Ellinger, just a list of Texas quarterbacks that have been solid, but just not enough to just do everything themselves. He's just not it. Now, I think the only thing that bothered me about him is just his choice in passes. Like when he had that one game when he struggled, was at 49% with over like 50 passes in the game. It's like you're just making bad choices, and on that's on him. Yeah, and that's on him more than it is coaching. Like the coaches called the plays, and he was just making the choices out there. If he's a trend,
38, Matt said, "What did Spencer Rattler do after that? He won 8 games in the SEC. I mean, did Quinn win last year?
Yeah, he did win 8 games in the SEC, and so that's the difference. That's the difference between the two. And so, like I said, Spencer Rattler's not transcendent either. I mean, he had better. I think he has better coaching as far as quarterback go. Now, I don't think that Beamer's a better coach than Sark. I think that the quarterback coaching is better at South Carolina than it would be at what Texas has right now. But Sark's not bad, huh?
They got AJ Milwee at Texas.
Yeah, and I think Texas is going to start moving up. I think that I think you'll see Texas be a lot better if, once they go down the line of their quarterbacks. But I just don't think that Quinn Ewers is the transcendent dude to
Matt
that everybody complains about Sarkisian having
at OU.
He's not that capable of a quarterback. And that does not saying that he's a bad quarterback. Now, I hope y'all understand that. I'm not saying that Quinn is a bad quarterback. I'm just saying that he's not at the level, and there's very few players that can go past the coaching when every Texas fans complaint has been Sarkisian's second half adjustments. Yep. I mean, that's what it is.
But here's the thing: you can't compare Quinn Ewers to Spencer Rattler, because Spencer Rattler sat behind Jalen Hurts a whole season at OU. Quinn Ewers was at Ohio State, came in August, and then transferred to Texas. He didn't get a year to sit in that system. He went and transferred to Texas and immediately got thrown into the fire. Like I don't
think the system matters in that capacity. I think it's more so about your tutelage by quarterback. He came from a good quarterback coaching system too. So
it's not like he went from UNT to Texas, right?
Right. He actually went.
You may have foreseeably.
And I will say this: I think Ryan Day is a better quarterback coach than Steve Sarkisian.
Ooh, hot take.
I wouldn't argue that.
Hot take.
but that's the thing is it's and that's like I say, that's not me putting a knock on Ewers. It's more so he's just not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to outplay his quarterback, his coach.
And the thing about Texas too is you have even more pressure going down there being the starting quarterback, regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
You just have those expectations, and going in there, that's your expectations. And he wore it, and was hey, I'm the dude, I'm this guy, I'm that guy. Well, go show us,
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the thing is that look, we're not trying. None of us are trying to discredit Texas, Ewers, or any of that. But I'm just saying, look, there's many questions that they're gonna pipe up and say on these Twitter Spaces, these boards, all the rest of that stuff. They have a lot of questions inside their room as well, and at key places as well. Whereas, I told Nick, I said, hey, Nick from Nino's Corner, shout out to Nick. I said, hey, man, look, you'd like to talk about generational quarterbacks and transcendent quarterbacks. What about transcendent running backs? Because a lot of people would have loved to have Bijan Robinson. Would have loved to have had him because
they wasted his talent.
Put him in a number of systems around the nation. I tell you this right here: for as good as Jahmyr Gibbs is and Jace McClellan, I bet you Ty would say, yeah, I'd trade both of them for Bijan right now.
I don't know about both of them, but Bijan's exceptional. And the only reason I don't know about both of them, Chris, is because you got to realize Jahmyr Gibbs is as close to Bijan Robinson as you could possibly get in college football. They're a little stylistically different. One of them's a bit more power, Bijan, right? Bijan will lower he's just built a little, and Gibbs is a little bit more
finesse,
little bit, but Bijan, that's tough because Bijan excels at everything. He genuinely excels at everything.
And that's him overshown guys like that. It's going to show up at some point when those guys are not out there on the field in key moments. Yep. I mean, the same for us, to be honest with you. Like I said, we always talk about with OU, we overestimated the talent that we had walking through the building this season. And the thing about it is that when you needed to get off the field, Benito wasn't there. Isaiah wasn't there. Perrion wasn't there. You didn't have those guys that you had last year that even when Grinch was calling a terrible game, they could go win a ball game for you because they elevated the team above the bad coaching that was.
Cindo, you're 100% right. No disrespect for Gibbs, but everyone and the uncle is sleeping on Deuce Vaughn. I think Deuce Vaughn is going to be a very, very interesting piece in the draft. I'm intrigued to see where he goes.
Ask yourself this question when it comes to that one, Ty. How many of those have Kansas State produced? They produced those. So I think that Deuce Vaughn's going to probably be pretty good in the NFL. That's what K-State does. They get little dudes.
They produced in the NFL.
I mean, Darren Sproles was really, really good.
In the last 20 years, though.
No, I get his. No, look.
I don't know, but I still think that's not
here because there's two guys that are really small, that were undersized for their positions and all the rest of that. Lockett and Sproles. I know Lockett's playing.
Yeah, they have a tendency of doing that. That's what Kansas State. They'll get these little dudes and just go. They be out there they look good. They're not going to be your. I don't say CMC lookalike. I say more of a change of pace guy, and especially in today's NFL, he'll last a lot longer in comparison to even like a Sproles or whatnot.
Different formations and third down type of back stuff like that. Yeah, he would. He's not an every down.
No,
he's not built for that. It's kind of like me and you, Ty. We talked about Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin just came into college football a little too early. If he was here in today's, like Deebo Samuels, oh my God, he'd been absurd in the NFL today.
Reggie Bush, another name we talked about, was just a little early for his time.
That dude, I remember, I love, as much as he gave me nightmares and stuff in that, when he played against us.
The title game,
that dude, man, I loved watching him. And if it wasn't for the migraines and all that stuff that he had off the field, stuff that was out of his control, he would have had a really – and he still did have a decent NFL career. But, I don't know if you guys knew the story about Percy Harvin. He got incredibly bad migraines and just couldn't function at times. And so it was just – it derailed his issues. Yeah. So, it was unfortunate because that dude
– Wasn't he there when Adrian Peterson was there?
He was there in the late 2000s. He played against us in the national championship game.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But He was.
Well, I mean,
yeah, he did play.
Where
Yeah,
did
he was
Bo
with him.
play
He was there with
Minnesota?
Peterson.
Yeah,
he
in
was
Minnesota
like
with
he was a freshman. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but he was. Oh,
Yeah, he
man,
played
that
with
dude-
Peterson. He's an all-purpose guy. He was more like a Debo Samuel. He's just
Yeah,
those migraines.
Move
took
him
out.
around, and he was kick return, punt return. Getting the ball in his hands.
But it's interesting we're kind of having this conversation. Chris, you're going to like this one. And I think Chris and Jay, y'all have heard me say this before. So when I was going back and doing, like I've said before, my film study for Alabama, trying to figure out why the offense just didn't come together. When I got to the Texas game, I am interested in how they're going to replace Bijan. And Chris, to be fair, I love Jonathan Brooks. I watched him play live at the state championship game when I was interning for Dave Campbell's Texas Football. I was on the field watching that. He is exceptional. He is an exceptional football player. Really, that whole family is. Dalton Brooks, his cousin, another blue chip guy heading to A&M. Doug Brooks, another guy playing college football, their other cousin. Very talented family. Jonathan Brooks is going to be a dude. Cedric Baxter is terrifying. That's another guy who's going to be a dude. But
Jaden
Blue's great. Yeah, no doubt. But to your point here, when we're talking about the running back, and not even just the running back, but specifically here we're speaking about the running back, there are guys that you have to be aware of when the ball is in their hands, right? And then there are guys that you have to be aware of when they step on the football field. Bijan is the latter. The second he steps on the field, you have to know exactly where he is.
Yep.
The reason I say that, Bijan as a decoy is almost just as dangerous as Bijan with the ball in his hands. Think about how scary that is. It's the same reason, game number 1, Alabama versus Utah State. Look at the first drive for Alabama. One of the first things they did, they sent Jahmyr Gibbs out into the flat, and everybody in that secondary bit. They all came down to Gibbs, and Bryce Young hit Brooks. Gibbs as a threat was dangerous. Just Gibbs being on the field made defensive coordinators say wherever he goes, we have to follow him. So you would consistently have linebackers and safeties trying to double cover him, messing up, and someone else was left wide open. That's Bijan. He's special. How they replace that, I don't know. But what I do know is they have very talented guys in waiting. Very gifted running backs.
I think the only thing that I consider with what you're saying, Ty, is that this isn't Texas' first rodeo with getting running backs of this caliber. I mean, I'm trying to figure out where.
This is a good institution.
Right. This is what they do. They just produce them.
Yeah.
And from Ricky Williams going through to Cedric Bensons of the world. And, you go down the line all the way into Bijan. They produce this. This is what they do.
Sark doesn't give more than one running backs like a ton of touches. Or recent Sark. He didn't at Bama. He was very like one guy oriented. Now other guys would get it, but like it was.
This is my guy. This is my guy, and this is the guy that's going to get it. Yeah, I'm a pound the rock with him. You're 100% right. I'm curious to see what Baxter looks like for them. But you're right. It's going to be tough to find another Bijan. They're going to. Texas will find another Bijan type. The question is how soon, how fast will that actually come to fruition? Like for Bama, the one player that I'm looking at the most is that Richard Young. Like everything about him looks like a Alabama running back from the 2000s that's going to run for like 1,800 yards. Physical. I just don't know why. Yeah. It's just I look at him. I'm like, dude, your name is Richard Young. You're an NFL running back.
I'm with you, Jay. I think he could be that dude.
I don't know how he fell from being a 5-star. Which I'm biased there. I will full out admit that, but he's so
Fair
good.
Point,
he's got the intangibles for sure, no doubt.
I mean, it's just
Matt says Hayes is better than Young, and Justice Haynes is a monster as well.
Here's a little bit of a hot take. Kind of dips into the NFL as well. This is just me speaking. Not a Cowboys fan. Really don't care for the Cowboys, but I will say this right here. If they can get their hands on Bijan, it's probably time to let Zeke leave. I mean, Pollard is clearly the one in that room. Go get Bijan and do what you need to do.
Yeah, hey man, you might cancel Christmas if they get Bijan. I'm not even gonna lie, because then you actually have a running back that's at the age that can go ahead and carry the load today. Like
Well,
he's a
Pollard-
carry the load today running back.
But you can work him in because the thing about it is that Pollard has become that.
Oh, no, Pollard's done. Pollard might not show up until November. Remember, he shattered his fibula.
he shattered. Yeah,
Oh,
he-
I forgot.
I was gonna say
He might not play next season. They may have to, especially because he's getting older, and Zeke's contract's up too. So
Yeah.
he's at that age where, yeah, he's probably done
Well,
too because they keep putting him in
just
stupid
stuck
plays.
because they paid him and Dak so much freaking money, and nobody's
Kinda
going to
have
take
to.
those contracts.
The Cowgirls need to move
Kinda
off
have to.
Dak too, and in my opinion, they need to go get Aaron Rodgers, and then either draft.
That's not happening.
None
None of that's happening.
draft a quarterback or trade for a young quarterback.
None
Yeah,
of
but
that's
the
happening.
thing about it
Have a
is,
piece
if you
behind
try to trade Dak in that deal, none of these teams are going to eat his contract or a good chunk of it because they're going to have to take over some of that contract.
The problem
I
you
just
run
don't know
into
the
is
NFL
that
enough to.
the problem you run into with that is that Aaron Rodgers is on a $50 million a year contract.
Yep.
And Dak's on a smaller version of that.
Little bit
And
smaller.
you're not going to be able to afford
Yep.
him because I think Rodgers is more guaranteed. So I think most just about all of this is guaranteed. It's like 150 mil. So you're not gonna be able to do that and actually be able to build around.
And
that
with
roster.
Aaron Rodgers, he can pick and choose where he wants to go.
Right? He ain't going nowhere.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just
he's leaving Green Bay, but he's not going to Dallas.
He
I'm
ain't
so
going
sad.
He
I
ain't
spend
even
all
going.
my time watching college football. So whenever we start like diving into NFL conversations, I just have like the most casual baseline fan.
come pull up
understanding.
over
That's
our
okay.
channel.
Just come be a
We'll talk
Chiefs
to
fan. Just come be a Chiefs fan.
No.
and
Oh, God.
Jump on that
be okay.
bandwagon like PG.
No.
Yeah.
You got
You're
Ricky
right.
talking the bandwagon stuff, but no, Chris, you're right. Dallas needs to go get Bijan. Just
No,
call it a day.
I-
And then they always do it. They get a good running back. I mean, Zeke was really good to start at the beginning of his career. The problem is you cannot have a running back run the ball 300 times a season in the NFL and think that they're going to hold up after 4 years. It
grind
doesn't
is too
work.
much.
That's why DeMarco Murray ended up with the Titans after he left Dallas, is because they ran him into the ground and they were like, oh, we're not paying him after running him into the ground. That's what they do. It's like the old school what everybody used to say about Alabama running backs, like the old offenses that Saban had where you run the ball and then you run the ball. And then after that, you establish the run and then you run the ball again, where all the running backs literally run the ball like 300 and almost 400 times in a season, except for Derrick Henry, who's a freak of nature. I've ever seen that run the ball 300 times in a season, like 8 straight years, and still be a monster just because just his build. But besides that, a lot of your Bama backs like Trent Richardsons and stuff like that couldn't make it past college because they ran to the ground. They're just pounded nonstop, especially in the SEC. You can't do that in the NFL and think it's going to work. You've got to mix it up. And that's why the 2 running back system, you got to do it while they're young,
And it's
not when they get
surprising-
old.
It's surprising that Derrick Henry has lasted this long.
Oh, no, Derrick Henry's a freak.
Yeah.
He's a transcendent freak
He's
of
an
nature.
exception.
So
Exactly. He's not the rule. Exactly. He's the
Yeah.
exception to everything.
that's what I'm
So,
saying.
yeah.
He's one of like the 1%.
One of one.
So the
Exactly.
question is, will Jeremy Pruitt get Derrick Henry 2.0 at Alabama? Because he
Gotta have a
helped get
McDonald's
Derrick Henry
bag.
to Alabama.
Well,
Bring that McDonald's bag with you.
yeah. Look, here's the thing. Bama's running back.
Chick-fil-A,
situation
as
right now-
Ty would
sorry.
say.
Sorry.
Ty wants you to be respectful to him for some
We have
weird reason.
we have a precedent to set. I have narratives to push. It was a
Wording!
Hey,
Wording,
Hey,
phrasing.
Hey,
Yeah,
there is
crazy.
a Bucky's. There is a Bucky's now in Alabama, so you can go grab a Bucky's bag. Maybe that's a little more.
Oh, Bucky's
you
is
know?
so amazing.
There you
Bucky's
go.
is life.
Hey,
but
Guy,
anyway,
let me jump in on these comments here. How I'm a Kansas City fan, y'all. My family is actually from Missouri, so my dad's side of the family is from the west side of Missouri, so they were Chiefs and Royals, which is what I am. And then my mom's side of the family, Cardinals and Rams. So if you're wondering how in the world a kid from Oklahoma is not a Cowgirls fan and they're a Chiefs fan, that's how I'm a Chiefs fan. So I'm also stuck with the Royals, who aren't very good right now in baseball.
I'm just a
But
football
I
fan.
also like the New York. Hey, I also like the New York Knicks in basketball. They're my favorite team. So
you just love heartache and pain, don't you?
I
That's a
know
lot.
the Chiefs are the only good thing I have going for me. So don't take it from me, okay?
Yeah,
Don't
the
take it
Eagles are
from me.
about to end that one, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, guys, I think as we're winding down, I think recruiting is a great topic for us to kind of end on, this weekend, a lot of institutions hosted massive events. Whether we're talking Oklahoma, Alabama had a junior day out there. Then they had Colorado. I mean, I went to put together a video for Colorado when I would just go, whew, that one came out weird.
That's what she said.
This is the thing with doing it live. You don't get to. I put together a video for Colorado and was going through Twitter trying to find all the people visiting, and I got to, I think, 34, and that's when I was like, all right, we'll be here for an hour and a half. I'm just
going
to
highlight
do
the
that.
big ones.
I'm just going to do like the names that the fans like, huge names, and goodness gracious, they had a bunch of those. I want y'all to talk to me about all of the recruiting. 2023 is about to wind down. News coming out per 24/7 Sports that Deuce Robinson may not make a decision on National Signing Day. I don't know if that's going to be true. Kirby's visor, that's all y'all need, is another tight end to add into that room. Dear God, that's already just the biggest headache in college football, is trying to stop that tight end room. That y'all don't need another one. Your recruiting class is good enough. You don't need another 5-star tight end. But Oklahoma, right? Some big moves coming from Oklahoma. Talk to us. I'll start Jay and then just go down the line. Thoughts about the big weekends recruiting, storylines you want to get out, storylines you think the people need to know about.
Oh yeah, so of course you had the elite junior weekend for just about every big school in the country, and just all these players coming out, and I'm gonna be honest, the names that Oklahoma actually had pop up, I was kind of surprised this early. And I only say that because the way Venables recruiting, and Ty, we've had this discussion numerous times on your show, whatnot, of how he's really big on the dating thing and said, don't commit until you're ready to go ahead and commit to us. And then we'll commit to you by taking one name off of our list or one scholarship off our list so that we don't over recruit outside of what others do. But seeing the list of kids that came through, like, I think the one that probably jumped out to me the most, and me and PG talked about this on his show a few times, is Zadavian Sims down there in Durant?
Zadavian Sims, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just everybody wants the kid, and Michigan State. We've talked about this too. Michigan State has been pretty impressive with what they're doing. I don't know what the hell Mel Tucker's doing. I don't know if he's walking around with bags or if he's just that damn charming. But it seems like his name keeps popping. Spartans keep popping up in every damn conversation, just like Coach Prime is. And I know why Prime is showing up, because he's Deion Sanders. But for some reason, I'm seeing Spartans and all kinds, especially on the defensive line. I'm just like, where is this coming from? But anyway, seeing Sims pull up and just the long list of 4 stars that came through, I'm really excited about seeing the big one in March, because then that tells me what players I feel like will actually be potential to sign and commit. This one was fun just to see the names. Same thing with Colorado. All the kids they were able to get out there, like, oh my God. I'm ready to see what Marches looks like, and then I can really get excited.
Champion barbecue.
Fair, no doubt about it. PG, I know right now I want to give you first same question, but I do want to lead you off with this, because out of the panel, you do such a good job. I mainly just talk football, but you do such a good job getting in connection with these recruits, getting in connection with these players, interviews. So there's a lot of talk right now about Michigan State. We started off in the green room talking about this. My mindset is I'm so jaded in recruiting at this point. I don't believe it's over until they've signed the ink and I watch them on campus. But that being said, there is a lot of chatter. Jay kind of hinted at it, about David Stone and Michigan State. You are not concerned in the slightest. I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, it's as simple as this. So, I actually talked to quite a few 2024 recruits that I feel like we're in really good positions for. Guys that I hear, we talk about their visits when they go other places, and they talk about, the comparison between Oklahoma and Oregon, or Oklahoma and TCU, or Oklahoma and Tennessee, or places like that. You can kind of put together who those people might be just based off the 3 other schools. But you're hearing a lot of Stone recruiting guys to Oklahoma, and he's not even committed. And you heard that as far back as last year during the OSU game, when he was there with Hicks, and he literally had a group of guys around him the entire time. You know, Stone has talked about how he doesn't advertise his visits to Oklahoma, but he spends more time on campus than he does at home when he's here at Oklahoma, which tells you a lot. You know, this is home for the kid. This is what he's familiar with. He's been around this program forever. David Stone is smart. He knows how to go out there and build his brand. And I believe that's what he's doing. You know, he's going out there. He's creating a lot of hype because he knows I'm a top 5 247 player. I'm one of the best defensive linemen in this class. He knows what he's doing. And who's to blame a kid to go out there and build their brand the way he's doing? Now, Michigan State's been interesting because they had Sean Cooper, who I guess has been in connection with a lot of these big-tier defensive linemen throughout the country, which is why you see the crystal ball in for Zadavian Sims at Michigan State. But Sean Cooper's now at Georgia Tech. And I think that's going to take a lot of recruiting momentum away from Michigan State. I was actually talking to Jay about this in the green room. I said, I'll be curious to see 2024 and 2025 how Michigan State recruits on the defensive line now that Sean Cooper's not there. I'm curious because I feel like he was a big push for that. So not concerned for Zadavian Sims or David Stone at the slightest. I get it. You hear Chad Simmons come out here and say the things that he's saying. You know, yes, David Stone's going to talk good about these programs. Why would you not? Because you never know. One day you might need that coach. You might need that program. You're not going to go out there and completely bash them. You're going to go out there and you're going to say all the right things. So that's one. And it's too early. You're not going to see a David Stone commitment probably until late summer, maybe during the football season. So it's way too early to even, I think, in terms be submitting crystal balls for David Stone.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's just my humble and honest opinion on it. I haven't spoke to David Stone. You know, I've tried to reach out to him, but I get it. He's probably got a million people reaching out to him because he's one of the best. He's one of the top guys out there. But I don't see David Stone leaving Oklahoma. As far as the recruiting weekend goes for a lot of these schools, Colorado, I think, had a really good recruiting weekend. You heard that they made a lot of ground with Ryan Wingo, and his father even came out and spoke about it. And I think you're going to see Colorado really get in the race for a lot of skilled players. But I said this on my podcast, and I've said this here too. You're going to see a lot of players add Colorado in their top schools list. But they might pick the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Oklahomas and the Texas because they need to lock down their spot at those schools just in case Colorado isn't what they decide at the end that they want to go do. Because they know at the end of the day, in December, they can flip that commitment to Colorado because Colorado is going to have that spot open. But Georgia and Alabama might not. So they need to go get their spot at that big program. And then
that's a fair point.
If the development's there and if Deion's got the program going in the right direction, they can flip in December. And that's why I think you're going to see Deion probably over the next year or two have a lot of flips throughout college football in the recruiting space. And you might see Colorado, and the same thing for Oklahoma. And I said this with Jay the other day. It's the same thing for Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's recruiting is going to be slow for like the next couple of years because people are going to want to see the development of this team on the field, and they're going to want to see how hard are the players going to play? Is the team improving, right? Before they commit to a place like Oklahoma and Colorado where they need to see that. Where do they need to see, okay, how are these head coaches going to develop us as players? And so I think that's important to watch for Colorado. I personally, in my opinion, I think two guys that Colorado has to get in this class, Brandon Baker on the offensive line and T.A. Cunningham on the defensive line. And I say T.A. Cunningham on the defensive line because he's super talented and he's in California. And we have seen it right now. Right now we've seen it. Deion's trying to make it known that Colorado's going to come into Colorado, or that Colorado's going to come into California and steal these recruits from USC and UCLA, and that they're going to make that a recruiting hotbed for them, just like they're going to do with Texas and Florida. And so I think it's imperative that they go into Los Alamos High School and get T.A. Cunningham out of the grasp of a school like USC.
And even to piggyback off of that, to piggyback off of that, you make a great point. Phenomenal. Look at one of the high schools that was in attendance en masse to this weekend for Colorado. Mater Dei. They had a lot of dudes out there. And guys, I've said this on this stream several times, that Trinity League is my favorite high school league to watch in the nation. It is wild how good they are. They're prepped. A lot of those guys, they're prepped when they come out. I'm not saying they're the only league, right? It's just like Oklahoma fans, y'all feel about Jackson Arnold, right? Or for Texas fans, Anthony Hill coming out at middle linebacker. Like you feel good about them translating, because in high school, they played elite talent week in and week out. I mean, they weren't going up against, the Sisters of the Poor. They were going up against dudes on a week in, week out basis, especially both those Denton boys, Anthony Hill and Arnold for y'all. They played a gauntlet, and those two guys, man. Denton is so talent rich. Yeah, I can't believe how much talent is just sitting here in this city. It is wild. Yeah. It is wild. I love that point you make about them going to California. That's a great one.
Yeah, and building off that point, so that's, I think, Colorado's got to be their biggest focus going into the season. As far as some of the guys that are left in the 2023 class, I really like where Oregon's at with Nicholas Harbor. And I think that's a great pickup for Oregon, because I think Nicholas Harbor can be used in so many different ways all over the field. Track's important, and you're starting to see Oregon really invest money into guys that are football and track. Same thing for Roderick Pleasant, the 4-star cornerback. I like their chances with Oregon. As far as Deuce Robinson goes, that's the one that intrigues me a lot, because Georgia, I don't see him going there because of the baseball aspect. And I'm curious to see what happens with him in the MLB draft this year, because I've heard that he,
Kirby's advisor said that same thing in a comment. I'm sorry, but he said that he's waiting for that decision. So great point. Yeah. Great point.
So, that's the thing. It's like when I think of schools for that are in his top schools that he could go to, Alabama and Texas for the baseball. I really think that's it, unless he wants to come to Oklahoma, which Kel Gundy's not here. So I think Oklahoma's been well out of that race for Deuce Robinson. But man, the recruiting aspect of this game for 2024, it's going to be so interesting, because I don't think you're going to see the typical Georgia and Alabama's maybe in the top 5. I think there's a really good chance you see Clemson and Oklahoma and Colorado and Florida really vie for the top 5 spots, and maybe an Alabama or a Georgia coming in somewhere in that 5. Just one of the programs.
I agree that people are going to boom, but I think it's going to be tough for people to get Bama and Georgia off their spot, just because of historics. Right now, Georgia, especially because of recency, but it also depends on Nick Saban and his timeline, right? But I do completely agree about your base theory here, like your base hypothesis about these teams booming completely, and the proof is in the pudding. To your point, look at the weekend Colorado had.
Well, and if there's one program that had an incredible recruiting weekend for their program, go look at Clemson.
It's Clemson. Yeah,
they even just got a 4-star, I want to say, quarterback or cornerback for 2024 commit to him. Yeah, just today.
Yeah, and that recruiting class they're building at Clemson is spectacular. Nail on the head, PG.
The number 1 linebacker in the class, the number 1 safety in the class, and
all trending.
One of the top 3 cornerbacks in the class. I think if you put in a crystal ball for all 3 of those guys to Clemson, you'd probably hit 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3.
If they can hit 2 out of 3 on Brown and KJ Bolden, my God.
Clemson has not slowed down without Brent Venables.
No, but they made great hires. We talked about this in the green room. You lose Todd Bates, you get in Nick Eason, and that's a great hire. You're 100% right. Nail on the head. Drew, your thoughts, man?
We're talking just recruiting.
Just recruiting in general, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to go piggyback off of what PG said, I mean, I think the biggest one that sticks out like a sore thumb is what Colorado's been able to do with their recruits and the visits they've had in this week. And like what PG said, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of them put in for their top 10s, top 15s, whatever it is, because it still intrigues them. It's still that the thought of, going up to a cold Boulder somehow intrigues them because of, like you say, Deion Sanders continuing to move the needle, and that's what he does. That staff, the things that they're putting in place in Colorado continues to move that needle. And for kids now, they like the flash, they like the gear, they like all this. They want to get to the next level, and Deion could provide that for him if he does well on the field next year, especially for talking 20, 25 kids and beyond. But yeah, I mean they're doing good things, and it's gonna be fun to watch to see what they build and continue to put in. But Oklahoma, as far as them, I talked to a friend of mine who is pretty close with the program and stuff like that, and really good weekend. A lot of great names in town. If you guys are message board people, go check those out at 247. Parker and Brandon do a great job of
phenomenal
kind of putting pieces together, stuff like that. But a couple names that I like, a couple, obviously the offensive line. It'll be nice to see if we can continue to build depth on the offensive line, and then continue the defensive push for a guy like Kobe Black, corner out of Waco, is a really big name that was in town. A couple other people that I really am interested to see. And for everybody that's like, oh, well, when are we going to start seeing commitments? When are we going to start seeing guys do it? This is the part of the time where, especially with juniors, this is for them to really get their initial feel for some schools. And you start seeing them take these dates and some unofficials. You'll start seeing a lot of unofficials, stuff like that behind the scenes. You'll start seeing juniors do a lot of unofficial visits, especially during their time. And then when it hits their senior year, then they're going to take those 5 official visits. That's typically with especially these big name recruits. That's typically how they've done it. And so you'll start seeing, you might see some early recruitments, guys that want to get it out of the way. Hey, like a Jackson Arnold did last year, wanted to get his commitment out of the way and just go play his senior season. You may see some guys like that, but I think I'm with PG. I think especially like a guy like David Stone or these other guys, you'll start seeing those recruitments get pushed further out. And that's not saying anything, and they're not flip-flopping. They're just enjoying the process, man. And what wouldn't you? You're a big-time 5-star recruit. You're eating this up, man. I would. I know certainly, if you guys were in that same boat, you would.
I would be a problem.
Yeah.
If I had the ability of these dudes, I would be
often gets overlooked is that some of these parents and some of these just, hey, enjoy the process, man.
Oh.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Official visits, everything's taken care of. You get treated like a king. Like, go take all 5 of your official visits, even if you know where you're going to go.
And just you're doing your homework at the same time. Because, for example, I'll give you a Grayson Halton. Really loved Oregon. Was going to commit up there and loved what they were doing there. And obviously Cristobal was up there and everything like that. And some things changed, but he went around and took some visits. But when he came to Oklahoma, he realized, oh man, this is, I like it. It's a fit. It's what I like. And guys are going to do that across the country, not just Oklahoma, but other sports and even, football as well. You're going to fall in love with a school. You're going to really know that it's your match because you're taking the process seriously and you're vetting every avenue. And some of these guys really will do their homework, and others, they just know where they want to go, and they're just going to wait because, like PG said, shoot, you get rolled the red carpet out, take advantage of it. That the NIL situation doesn't hurt at all.
No doubt.
And I don't want to give Oklahoma fans too big of a excitement here. Kobe Black actually wasn't on campus this week. He was supposed to be with Micah Hudson, but they decided, they decided to go to A&M. Which no need to fear there, because the staff actually pushed a lot of people, kind of like Micah Hudson and Kobe Black, to reschedule their junior visit for the bigger one in March.
He was supposed to be on campus. Yep, correct.
Yeah, and a lot of that was, they talked to the staff, they talk about other places they want to go.
They had everything
the staff actually pushed them to go to those places. So it's not that they just got up and left OU to go there.
Yeah, I meant to say was going to be on campus. That was a name that I was watching.
That was a big one. Kobe Black was a big one. Kobe Black was a big one.
Yeah. So and there's time, and just it's really early in the process, and guys are going to do,
This will be my closing statement here this evening. And I'll use David Stone because I think it's a great example. Do I doubt that Michigan State is doing great work in that recruiting battle? No, I bet Michigan State is crossing their T's, dotting their I's, right? Making sure that they're doing everything they can to stand out to David Stone. Why?
No doubt.
Because he's one of the most gifted prospects in the nation. Every institution's going to cross their T's, dot their I's.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? But it's not even February yet.
Yep.
We still got a long ways to go. And remember, maybe he signs in December. Maybe he signs in February.
Yep.
Maybe he pulls a JT Tuimalau and takes it until April. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you get my point. There is so much time. I wouldn't worry about it until we're in October, November.
Jimmy makes a good comment. I absolutely 100% agree. I think he is a cornerstone for this recruiting class. And I think you have to nail him down, just like Jackson Arnold, just like Peyton Bowen, just like some of those guys last year. He is definitely at the focal point of this recruiting class.
Yeah,
huge for Oklahoma in moving forward. And like PG was alluding to, his ability to recruit others, just like Jackson Arnold did for our class last year. Huge piece to guys like Nigel Smith, some other guys out there that could potentially be in the fold for Oklahoma as well. You're talking about a serious D-line class if you could land some of those guys.
Absolutely. Now, guys, before we get out of here, thank you all for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the stream. If you haven't already, drop a like. That helps out the channel. And we are only 80 subscribers away from 18,000. If you're not currently subscribed, please be sure to do that. And after that, be sure to go check out the PG Show's content and Drew's content. They make great stuff, a lot of content. It seems like every single day y'all have something out. But before we get out of here, let the people know where they can go find all of your great content. PG, I'll start with you and then go to Drew.
Yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, all one word. You guys can also find that on all the major podcast platforms. As Ty has alluded to it, we do a lot of interviews. I'm getting 2024 recruits.
Excellent interviews.
Quality.
Yeah, we'll probably start pushing 2025 towards the end of the 2024 cycle, so you guys can start learning more about those players. And then also that makes it to where we have good recruiting information to talk about on the podcast, because we're talking to these guys. And then additionally, we talk to a lot of the transfers, and we're going to start moving into other schools outside of Oklahoma, so Colorado, Clemson, maybe even Florida. We got some stuff in the work there, and yeah, I would love to have you guys come in and check out some of these and learn more about the players that are coming into your school. We have Rondell Bothroyd for Friday, and I think a lot of OU fans are going to be curious to find out exactly why Rondell Bothroyd entered the portal and how he ended up at Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's going to be a great one. Be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, you guys get over there. I've had a chance to be in on a couple of those interviews, and what the PG does, and man, it's phenomenal, the stuff that he rolls out. So go over there and subscribe to his channel and hit that bell, because he's got a video coming out seemingly every hour. So it's you don't want to miss any of that. But for me, the Under Official Review podcast, you saw my co-host in here earlier, Zach Merrill, giving a little interaction and trolling. We do college football content. We do some NFL stuff. We started doing that. We're going to do our Super Bowl preview here coming up the end of probably this week or next week, because we got a couple of days before the Super Bowl. We'll also be rolling out some really good content. We also have a couple ESPN guys may join the show here in the next couple, something like that. So we got some cool stuff ahead. And then I myself have another announcement coming up soon in the world of podcasting and other avenues. So stay tuned for that. But you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then Google, Apple, Spotify for all your audio content. But and then get this guy to 20K, by the way, Around the Table Sports. So get down there, hit that subscribe button, like, bell, all that good stuff, because Ty, he does excellent work. We're all chasing him because he is the GOAT. And so
far from it.
I want to be like Ty Hayes when I grow up. So
no, you don't.
I'm just striving every day to
a lot of disappointed parents out there at that statement.
No. But yeah.
A lot of disappointed parents.
Thanks again for letting me hop on. Always a good time when I get around our little group of guys. So always.
Oh yeah, man. Easy. Guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday. And once again, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. None of these are scripted. I don't talk about it on here until about 20, 30 minutes before, unless one of y'all drop a comment, something you want to know about. So none of the guys on here throughout the course of this, all of this is off the top of their head. Maybe we'll say, hey, we're going to talk about some potential hires, which is why Jay knew some stats on Grubbs. We talked about it in the group chat. That's about the most preparation work we've done for a topic ever on this stream. Everything else is pretty much, well, us just as football fans trying to connect with y'all and make an environment where it's fun for us to watch football and talk football, because we all have an unhealthy obsession. But with that, thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all on Friday. Until then, take it easy. Spinning Wheel of Doom.